Imagine you're watching a movie and it's a scene you just can't take your eyes off of. Suddenly you get a glimpse of something familiar or even strange in the background. You'll hit pause, won't you? Call them editing mistakes or Easter eggs. Such scenes exist and make up for some of the most paused moments in movie history. And we have a list of some pretty interesting ones you'll find out about in today's video. Starting at 8, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indiana Jones may have made its mark as one of the top film franchises in the world, but we bet that no other moment in all its movies combined can make up for this scene. Featuring Paul Freeman, it's a scene where Harrison Ford's Jones is aiming a rocket launcher at Belloc and his team. This leads up to a speech from Freeman's character, but what happens next is something no one expected. In the scene, as Freeman starts speaking, a fly lands on his face. Wait till you see that it actually makes its way into Paul's mouth. See that? Yep, we even hit pause when we found out. Where'd it go, and why didn't Paul react? Well, you'll be glad to know that the fly didn't really make its way inside his mouth. They just removed a frame or two that made the fly disappear. Either that, or they just made up a story to save Freeman some face. Next at 7, Dirty Dancing. Nobody puts Baby in the corner, nor do they ignore that this one scene in Dirty Dancing just made the entire film worth its while. The amazing dance sequence, Jennifer Grey soaring up in Patrick's arms, just the stuff of magic. So yeah, that's another most paused scene in movie history that you just can't top. Watching this, we can't imagine how bad things were between the two leads at the time. Moving on to number 6, Three Men and a Baby. The title of the movie is pretty self-explanatory. The film's about 3 men who get to raise a baby together that just appears on their doorstep one day. But in all this, you'd never believe that there's a ghost apparition in the film, would you? Hold your horses. It isn't a real ghost or even part of the story. What happens is that in one of the scenes, you see a boy standing in the window in the background of where the actors are performing. Oops, super creepy, isn't it? Viewers of the film really thought that it was a ghost, and even made up theories that it was a kid who used to live in the house before and is now watching over the baby and his family. Instead, it's a cutout of Ted Danson himself that was left behind by some crew member on the soundstage they were filming on. Now, whether they left it there as a practical joke or if they wanted to give the audience a scare, we don't know. But it does make up for a fun Easter egg, doesn't it? Now, at 5, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? You'd think that a Disney movie with a very Disney story wouldn't entice audiences to guess whether its characters are wearing underwear or not, right? Wrong. Because in this film, with the super seductive Jessica Rabbit, minds raced and theories were formed as to whether she was going commando or not. Really smart analysis of the film, don't you think? In fact, there's a particular scene where people have literally hit pause just to see if their theory is true or not. Yup, it's this accident scene where people have tried very hard to see what's under Jessica Rabbit. Honestly, leave the cartoon alone, people, and get your minds out of the gutter, will you? 4th on our list is Iron Man. Marvel may have taken its sweet time in setting up the Avengers and Infinity Saga, but they did leave some cool Easter eggs along the way. And one of the first ones, actually the first one, is in this scene from Iron Man 1, where Tony's trying to come out of the suit and Pepper walks in. Before we get to the actual Easter egg, can you believe how stupid this scene actually looks? Can't imagine how the Avengers would have operated without Tony's nanotechnology. Anyway, back to the scene. So Pepper walks in on Tony, and as they're talking, you get to see this half-made shield in the back, which is actually Captain America's vibranium shield that Tony's working on. Such a cool detail, right? Speaking of Captain America, let's go to number 3. Now, we don't know if this scene's actually real, but hey, let's just humor the fans, shall we? So before there was Iron Man, there was a film that now doesn't even get the credit to bring Hulk into Marvel. Yep, we're talking about The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, which was supposed to be his entry into the MCU. It's sad that it wasn't, but we'll digress. Anyway, in one of the deleted opening sequences where an avalanche comes crashing down, there's a teeny tiny glimpse of a mass frozen inside the water. Fans have since said that it's actually Captain America and his shield that we're seeing in the scene. Is it true? We don't really know, but we'd like to think that it would have been true if the film ever got the credit it deserves. Oh, and that's not the only scene where films have hit pause. There's another one in the film where there's a thunderstorm going on in the scene's background, and a lot of fans have said that it could be the moment when Thor enters the Earth, or falls into the Earth, but you get our point. There's even a glimpse of a mass falling from the sky that fans say is actually Thor. We won't say we're 100% sure, but if it was, it looks like the film's actually connected a lot more closely to the MCU than what we gave it credit for. Coming up, some honorary mentions. We'd like to start this honor list with one of the most talked about scenes in Star Wars history, the very first blooper that made it on the screen. Yes, we're talking about that stormtrooper bumping his head on the ship. It's incredible how the guy just went on as if nothing happened. Then we have some Disney mentions, starting with Beauty and the Beast, where Gaston is falling down, and guess what shows up in his eyes? Yep, skulls. It's a very brief appearance, but fans have hit pause enough times to commit this scene to memory. Another one from Disney is from The Lion King. As Simba plops down in the scene, an apparition appears in the sky in front of him, and guess what fans thought it spelled? S-E-X. Honestly, what? Turns out it's spelled S-F-X, which was a shout out to the animation team of the film. You know what we said about taking your mind out of the gutter? Yup, fans, please take note. And the last one on our honorary list is from Man of Steel, where Superman collides with a satellite in space. While it's a pretty active scene with a lot going on, one detail fans have loved is the Wayne Enterprise logo on the satellite, proving that Batman was part of the universe. Ah, the good old days when we thought DC's films would also be as epic as Marvel's. Anyway, let's move on. Second to last is Brad Pitt's various flashes. Okay, no, we don't mean flashing here, but what we actually mean is the scenes he flashes in and out of in a couple of his films. The first one is Fight Club, the famed sequence where he appears on the screen even before his character is introduced. Remember those? There are actually 4 times when he appears on the screen before we even meet him. Interesting, right? He even appears in a Bridgeworth Sweets commercial in the film that you can miss if you aren't paying attention. In fact, you'll be surprised to note that Fight Club is filled with such scenes right off the bat. You didn't even know about this second warning that flashes after the copyright warning, did you? And going back to our topic, here's another Brad Pitt scene where he flashed all of a sudden. Yeah, it's from Deadpool 2, where Pitt's character is invisible in most of the film until he gets tangled up in these wires, finally showing us who the actor behind Vanisher is. Finally, the most paused one of all, Basic Instinct. You probably already know which scene we're going to talk about, right? You guessed it right. It's the super popular Sharon Stone scene where, in order to confuse the detectives interviewing her, she crosses and uncrosses her legs, leaving little to the imagination as to what's so confusing about it for her interrogators. And well, the scene worked, and even if it did become the most controversial and talked about moment from the film, the movie and Sharon made it big among her fans. And the rest, as they say, is history. That's a wrap for this video. What other scenes in films have you pressed pause on? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.